And you people, you're all astronauts on some kind of Star Trek.
Do you expect me to talk?
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, and welcome to the big episode 60 of Do You Expect Us to Talk? I'm Becca, and always I'm joined by the amazing Chris, Dave, and the fabulous Charlie of Movie Drone. How are you doing?
Charlie is fucking fabulous.
Fabulous, darling, fabulous.
I'm actually going to fucking miss him. This is Charlie's last for a while.
I know
this
sad.
is very bittersweet.
And it's our special 60th episode too.
Still, at least he's going to listen now, isn't he? It's part of the show, so we've definitely got like a download there. He's going to listen between now and when he comes back on.
Of course, if only for more references about my beard.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, there's a sad occasion. Obviously, it's Charlie's last time on the show for now. But we've come to the end of our trek through the stars, our Star Trek retrospective series. So obviously, as you know, we do our rankings episode. Chris, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Oh, is this where we pick out our choices? Sorry.
Bit of Joe.
We make a bold choice.
Are we allowed to stop taking the piss out of him now?
Yes, last time we did the Bond films, we kind of started from the bottom and we went around the table, then we just moved the way up. So if you feel like you know another film, like a film you've chosen is coming, you can hold off and wait and have the discussion then, or we can talk about it there. I think we'll just go with the conversation. So I've got 13 films, is that right?
That's right.
Yeah, I've got the same.
13
Correct.
Star Trek films, and
14 coming soon.
So who wants to go first? Do you want me to go first, or shall I let the ladies go first and
Ladies?
Dave? Yeah.
Ladies.
Hang on, you said ladies and Dave?
Well, I was leading on to a joke there. I said like ladies go first, and Dave,
Charlie
you go.
is not short for Charlotte.
No.
Davina, as he likes to be called.
Only at weekends.
But yeah, any takers for first?
Yeah, let's go with Becca first.
the least
Because
favourite.
right, I have to say at the outset here, when we did the Bond retrospective, which I found easier to rank, by the way, than this, I sent these guys my rankings and just went, by the way, this is what I think. And like a few days later, I changed my mind on a couple of things, but more or less that was it. But by the time we came to actually do the show, they'd forgotten. It was weeks later. So, but I never knew what theirs were. None of us know each other's rankings tonight.
No,
do we?
we've decided to go for a surprise this time and not reveal it. Reveal our rankings to each other. So yeah, don't laugh.
Why would we laugh? Unless
No,
you
it's all
put
good.
Ralph McCann bottom, in which case we will never record with you ever.
No, that's
Final
comfortably in my
Frontier
top
number
five.
one.
No, spoiler alert, that's comfortably within my top 5. So, alright, so I'm going to start with my number 13 film, right at the very bottom. Drum roll, please. Unfortunately, it's Nemesis.
I'm
Yeah, no.
actually
I mean,
a
the-
little bit surprised.
I mean, like the problem. Yeah, to be honest, I am a little bit, but
Yeah, it's me.
as Dave has alluded, it gets difficult about what your worst Star Trek film is, because a lot of them kind of like fall in the same.
They're fucking really bland.
Yeah, well, yeah. So Becca, why did you choose Nemesis?
I want the Next Generation movies to be so much more than they are. Unfortunately, as we said a couple of times in our reviews, another TV movie of the week. And this is the worst of the bunch. I feel so bad saying this. It's just like, oh, because it's, you know, Next Generation is very much. Well, I was gonna say my generation that I sort of grew up with in, you know, in the 90s, and just I think when we get to about position number like 10 or something, I'll be okay with the rest of them. But it's just like,
yeah, I
punching
feel
above its
kind of
weight.
the same, Becca, because this is my Star Trek,
Yeah,
and so to put them right at the bottom, you feel like I must have got that wrong.
it's like I felt very bad about.
we
No,
haven't.
not like bros, you know, like don't need the bros bashing, but I find it quite hard because that's of my generation. It's as you say, it's my my generation. Yeah.
Voice of an angel. It's not just me.
Why is it worth? Why is it worse than the other films on this list?
Because I said so.
Well,
Okay, fair
there
enough.
you are.
Justification.
I'm gonna go next. 'Cause I think it ties in well with Nemesis. My worst at number 13 is Insurrection. I was deciding on. It was between two films, and one film edged it because it had certain moments and ideas, though I don't think it's actually a very good film. But Insurrection is a more fluid film, but it is just boring. And I think what sealed the deal for me was the fact that, you know, having the box set, and if I was to ever be in a mood ever to watch a Star Trek film, Insurrection will probably never be it. So, for that reason alone, it's Insurrection, because it's just so boring.
It's quite dull, isn't it? I mean, it's just generally quite plodding. It's like, get on with it.
Yeah.
It looks beautiful, but get on with it. It's so frustrating.
I thought you were going to put that bottom, Becca,
Yeah.
because that was one film you ranted about.
Yeah.
It's so much of a letdown, really. But it's coming soon. It's coming soon.
All right, Charlie, I guess.
Mine is utterly predictable. Star Trek Into Darkness.
What? Really?
That's controversial.
Controversial.
Tell us why, Charlie, because surely it's all modern and great and shit.
That's Cumberbatch, you know.
But they explain the captain's oath and everything.
Yeah, you just nailed it there. It's terrible, and I can comfortably say that I can sit through all of the other Star Trek films relatively comfortably, and this one I can't. This one is it's a combination of frustration and anger. It just it makes me so frustrated at how bad it is. Yeah, it's shit. It's really shit.
Yeah, I mean, as like an outsider, as a non-Star Trek fan, I can clearly understand that, because while it's all, as Dave says, all shiny and modern and shit, it's not a very good script matched with anything that you love about Star Trek being gotten absolutely wrong.
It's a bit of an insult to the series as well, isn't it?
So I mean, it's not my worst, even though I think it's justifiable completely. But yeah,
I can see how to a fan such as yourself, Charlie, it would be like the worst of the worst. So I totally get that.
Having watched it twice in a very short space of time, I can comfortably say that I never ever want to see it again.
No, sorry to put you through it.
And as a Star Trek fan,
really bad.
That's really hard to say.
I think we can all politely just ignore it.
Sorry, Simon Pegg.
I think he'll survive.
Well, I mean, I think when we started this podcast and for the first dozen episodes or so, Chris used to edit it, and were he still editing this, my rankings would be different, because I had to listen to myself again talking about these films as I put together the final edit that you guys listened to. And the film I thought would be bottom isn't, because I'm sat here recording them, and I think there's one film that I am so impassioned about, and I think when you compare it to the next film I'm going to talk about, I hate it. I clearly hate it. You've only got to listen to me to hear how much I hate it. Whereas the next film I talk about, I'm kind of a little bit like, oh, whatever about. So my number 13, totally against what I was expecting, is Star Trek Into Darkness.
Oh,
I was totally expecting that anyway, Dave.
yeah.
I wasn't. It's a bit like Die Another Day, that I think it's the worst film in the series, but you got to balance it against like how hard you find it to watch.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of films I find harder to watch than this. But I just went back and like edited the show, and I'm listening to myself raging about this fucking dreadful film. And I think, how can you put this anything other than bottom? You clearly hate it. So yeah, it's bottom for me too.
Oh dear.
Okay. So
This is why I feel slightly guilty for ranking it not very high, but a few steps higher.
it's number 3 in your list, isn't it, Becca?
Surprisingly, no, it's not, despite the Cumberbatch, no.
So, what are we on that? So that's our film,
So that's
13
number
slot
13,
film.
so yeah.
That's two down for Into Darkness. And,
Yeah. I'm going to record our other votes as we go along.
And 1 for Nemesis. So, it's, we are really splitting hairs, really, between, like...
That's the problem. The bottom 6 of this series is crap.
I know. So, in our next step into crapness, what's number 12, Becca?
I'm taking a leaf out of your book, but slightly perverting it slightly. No, I've got Insurrection at number 12. Pretty well, I think all the Next Generation movies suffer from the same thing. Despite sort of, the cast and the sets and everything, the production values that go into it, and sometimes the budget bargain basement CGI, because I and Emma are too busy. There's just like TV movie of the week generally, and that's a massive like hampering factor for me. But yeah, I'm still surprised that I didn't put Insurrection last. Just so boring. But I thought Nemesis suffered the worst, so that's why I put it in my number 12 slot.
Okay. We don't really need to sort of go into that.
No,
guys.
people ranted about that already. I don't need to rant anymore. No.
Well, something which to say, otherwise we'll just fall asleep. So
that's my number 12 slot.
Guys, what's your number 12?
Mine's the Star Trek 5. Now, I thought I was going to put this bottom because this film I'd go almost as far as to say this film shouldn't have been released. I mean that. I mean, you look at Into Darkness and like it's crap, but it's clearly ready for release. I mean, it's shit, but it's ready for release. They meant to make that. Whereas you look at Star Trek 5, I hate to judge a film by its budget, but unfortunately, you've got to judge what's on the screen, and what's on the screen is partly a result of its budget. And Star Trek 5 has a lot of horrendous effects. It has Kirk not acting like Kirk, and even the scenes that are kind of nice in that I like the 3 actors involved, the main 3, Kirk, Bones, and Spock. Well, it's all very well to say I like them and that's fine, but most of their stuff is puns. Do you mind if we drop in for dinner?
A bit cheesy.
Drop down off a cliff. And they have nothing to do with the rest of the film. It looks cheap. It looks awful. It's a poor idea. And the idea of meeting God is kind of like, well, that's kind of interesting. But they go to the center of the galaxy within 2 days, which doesn't make sense at all. I think this film, it should be bottom. It is purely that I edit the show. And when I edit the show, I look at it and like I expressed such stronger opinions about Into Darkness. Star Trek 5, The Final Frontier, I've got it at 12.
Ouch.
Well, God's a busy man. So, Charlie...
God's a busy man. Here it comes.
Charlie, what's your number 12?
I've got Nemesis.
Oh, right, so not far off from... Why did you choose Nemesis?
Just because it's really boring.
Pretty shit.
It's kind of there was potential there. It kind of reminds. It's like what Dave was saying about Star Trek 5, is that with Nemesis, they had the budget, they had everything there. It was there, and it was just another weak sauce remake of Wrath of Khan, and I think. because I think the ideas within it were really interesting. The kind of the idea of the mirror image and kind of how people kind of grow up. The same person would kind of potentially be different in different situations and things like that. That was all interesting, but it just didn't meet any of that, and just ended up really, really boring. Yeah, and it's got Jim Robinson in the beginning as well, which is just really distracting. Romulan Jim Robinson.
Good old Jim.
Doesn't he turn up in everything though, Jim Robinson? That's an actor.
He was in Crystal Skull and he was in Winter Soldier.
He's in everything, isn't he? I forgot he was in Crystal Skull. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I think I'm putting all my fun facts, but never mind.
Yeah, so.
Forgettable.
And I remember seeing it in the cinema and I was so disappointed. And so deservedly down there.
Okay, well, I'm probably going to piss off a lot of people now. It was difficult because I was looking back.
I think I know what you're going to say.
It was difficult because I was looking back on the film. You know, I always write down all the films and I look at which ones like play number one and below it, and I try and decide what's my least favourite. And my knee-jerk reaction was this film because I remembered how I reviewed it. I chose Insurrection before it because it was just so boring. I was like, oh, that's nothing going to be. My problems with it is it's kind of like similar to Dave had. It just wasn't a proper film. Had no clear conclusion. I don't think it didn't work as well for me. It's Search for Spock. I'm sorry.
No.
I knew it.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, it was actually kind of a surprise me because I thought I was going to like the film more than I actually did. So I was a bit knocked back when I watched it objectively, thinking, oh, this isn't actually a very good film. In fact, this isn't a good film at all. Now, it's fair. It does suffer. I know it is kind of like a loose trilogy.
Yes. And it's the middle part.
And
Middle film.
And all middle films suffer for that. And we'll get to that when we talk about Star Wars.
Because the middle one, that's great.
Yes, I might have something to say about that. But
okay,
what?
Heretic.
Well, actually, no. Well, okay. I'll say this.
Let's leave that there. Just out of interest, in case you didn't know, Chris is going to prove what an arsehole he is.
No. There's a clear.
Stay tuned, folks.
There's a clear difference sort of like for my argument, and it's that I think it's anyway a bad film in any way.
Okay.
But so it's
For plot reasons.
Yeah. I would say
it's got pacing issues, but we'll get there.
No. I would say Empire is the best made Star Wars film.
Okay.
But I would say that'll be my definition of what Empire is. I wouldn't say it's the best film.
With fake praise.
No, it's not. I don't think it's rubbish.
You've seen Attack of the Clones.
No, it's
Yeah.
You can't,
It's not that I think it's rubbish at all. I mean, I can completely understand why people love it and all that, but I think when it's judged, I don't know. We'll get into it. That's Star Trek, people. So yeah, Search for Spock.
Trek we're talking about.
In your own time, obviously.
It doesn't have a clear narrative conclusion. It's not satisfactory. It's pretty bog standard in its direction. I think Nimoy does a better job later on. I just don't think it's a very good film, and it's not something I'd actually choose to pick up anytime soon. So, and bear in mind we are splitting hairs here. So, the amounts of quality is very kind of like far and in between. I was almost 12 is Search for Spock. So it's a weird one because I always go gauge on terms of quality. My own personal preference and in terms of what I actually would rather watch. So you might find worse films higher up than you think they would be, but it's only because I'd rather watch them as opposed to the actual quality of the film themselves. I think, Dave, we discussed this, didn't we, when we did Bond? Well, like how we were sort of gauging on
you've got to balance quality against enjoyment. Absolutely.
Yeah, you do. It's a fine balance.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very pushing vague, and it's probably depending on mood as well. So,
Yeah, it depends on kind of what mood you're in at the time.
Yes. So, so that's now number 12. Becca, what's your number 11?
I put Generations at number 11.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
I take it. You didn't come out thinking that was fun.
It was fun.
No.
Doing it.
Oh no, it's just missed opportunities. Yeah, basically for those reasons, Dave. Pretty much just because you got Shatner behaving the way he behaves, and it's just like, oh, what? Yeah, just so many missed opportunities, really. And that's mainly why it's my number 11 position. Anyway, Dave, what did you think?
Me. Hang on a second. Number
What's
11.
your number 11 role?
Yeah, at number 11, I put Nemesis. Now, at no point was Nemesis in any danger of being bottom, because I kind of think, in a strange kind of way, it's competent. Hangs together okay as a film. It's not too bad. It's kind of ugly to look at, and it feels a bit tired. You know, it just feels like a series running on fumes. But I can never get really angry about it. So when I look at like Star Trek V, Into Darkness, lots of other films in this series, bizarrely, that are above it, I can't get angry about it. So it's near the bottom because, frankly, it's boring. But it's boring and pretentious, whereas the next film I name is just boring. So, yeah, boring and pretentious, just boring to come. So, yeah, I haven't got anything more to say about it, really. Number 11, Nemesis.
Charlie?
My number 11 is Insurrection.
Yeah. For the same sort of reasons, the fact that it's just a sneeze fest.
I mean, I put it above Nemesis because I kind of like the stuff with Picard and the Prime Directive and all that kind of thing.
Well, you've got Picard behaving like Picard, haven't you?
Yeah.
And we want that, because even if you're a Kirk guy, we all like Picard. So, like, why would
That's
you...
that's what you want to see from him, really, don't you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Most of this series, he fucking isn't.
Yeah, there's a big dichotomy there, which is a bit weird, but never mind.
He's Jean-Luc McClane, really.
Jean-Luc McClane, yeah, that's true. He gets his guns out every opportunity.
Well, yeah, exactly. I just find it a bit more...
That's a good one, Chris. I love that.
A tiny bit more entertaining, and because of Picard's character, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think for the sort of 90s sensibility, they soup up his character a bit, whereas for the TV show, not so much.
It's just being in a film, really. It's kind of...
Yeah.
They have to... They always seem to feel that for the films, it always has to be action, action, action.
That's true. We've lamented it so many times. Chris, what's your number?
Speaking of action. Well, actually, my number 11 and number 10 are I feel like kind of joint. They're kind of parallel to each other. They're both very actiony type films. One is, I want to say one suffers from just being a bit dull, but it's probably more competent of a film. Whereas one is a lot more flashy and a lot more pacey and watchable, but is completely crap as a film. So I kind of toss into. I can't really sort of put one above the other, really. But the first one I got down is First Contact, and I think because of its reputation as well. I thought
I was going to be controversial because I got it that high.
Well, I am
like
a non-Trek fan, so
it's fucking bollocks. It is a film that has entirely got its reputation from people like the Borg, and it was shiny at the time.
Yeah.
It's not a very good film. This villain has been completely defanged before you get to this film, and the film starts with them fucking like beating them really easily. It is not a very good film. It really isn't. People put it in the top 3. Fine, like what you like. I do not want to insult anyone who feels different, but I genuinely and respectfully think you are wrong, because there's nothing about this film that's better than any of the top 3 or 4 I'm going to name.
Yeah, it's just, well, it's not the story itself. The script doesn't explain anything really.
No, it does.
It's full of plot holes, and I think the interesting bits are kind of washed over for a bit more Borg action. And I just think as a Star Trek film, it kind of loses its way. And if it was actually more enjoyable, I can go, okay, well, fair enough.
It's really it's really weird as a film because it's po-faced with sudden bursts of humour that ain't funny.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
But you do have
It's
drunk,
like
drunk
watching-
Troy, so
It's like watching
Full
Noah,
fat.
and all of a sudden, like Dumb and Dumber kicks in.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
It's a bit kind of here, there, and everywhere.
The whole fish out of
honestly-
water thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There are two films in this series that I think my opinion is almost right in that, like, opinions are opinions. Why would I be right? But when I look at things objectively, I think Star Trek Into Darkness is objectively a bad film because I don't think it hangs together right at all. And I think First Contact is objectively overrated. I honestly don't think there is any case for putting it above some of the better films in this series because it is literally just a pretty film. That's it. That's all it's got.
I think it is a bit of a waste of potential as well. I mean, I think if they had maybe chosen a different villain other than the Borg.
Well, they've got a new ship as well.
Yeah.
And I like that ship, and I particularly liked it when it was a model. And I thought, well, that's great. And then we see nothing of what the ship can do. Nothing at all.
Other than get taken over by the Borg somehow.
Yeah, not good. Somehow.
Somehow, dot, dot, dot.
Somehow.
So, seeing as it's a joint, I'm going to skip straight ahead to 10. You'll be pleased to know it's Into Darkness. Yeah, just basically the same sort of reasons. It's more flashy, it's more pacey, but the script is just dumb and rubbish. And while I think Contact has the script is better, but it isn't as flashy or pacey as Into Darkness is, and I don't have the same sort of issues as Dave and Charlie do. I can still happily watch Into Darkness, but I am fully aware that it is a terrible Star Trek film, and I can easily avoid it and completely just not count it in the new JJ verse, whatever you want to call it. So, and of course, Benedict is a crap car. So there you are.
Yeah.
Well, he's
He's a good actor not playing the same role.
Yeah,
He's
he's miscast for starters. Anyway.
I watch him in that film and I just think you deserve to be in a better film. He's not bad at all. He plays the scene really well.
If they just
come.
If they just give him a different villain, it's it's Mars a new villain. There you are, and then be no problems. You can play it however he wants. It could be be John Harrison.
They suggested he might be John Harrison. Yeah. Sorry. They suggested he might be Gary Mitchell. Gary Mitchell was ahead of us, if you like, as a species. That would have worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually think that would have been a better idea, because you think, okay, well, what did Rafa Khan do? Right, we took a villain from the old original TV show and then made him a villain. Okay, well, let's kind of do what Rafa Khan did and just choose a different villain from the original TV show and big him up as a villain. That makes more sense. So yeah, I was when they kind of flat out lied to us that was Gary Mitchell.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a better idea, but it was so when it was my name is Khan, I was like,
really?
Yeah.
oh, well, that's a bit disappointing. So I didn't have the desired effect. So yeah, Into Darkness it is. So Becca, what's your number 10?
For similar reasons to you, Dave, my number 10 is The Final Frontier. But yeah, I think we kind of said pretty much enough about it already. Just sort of plodding along, really. So yeah, that's my number 10.
Okay, you don't have much to say in it, really.
No, I think part of this. I mean, as we go further on up the list, I might easier thing to say, but I've said what I want to say already in the previous episode.
Okay.
Were
you not that impressed by Godface? No.
Godface. It was a bit Godface. Yeah, no, I think it's interesting. The effects used for Godface are quite interesting. Yeah, it gets kind of really preachy, doesn't it? Towards towards the end, and it's trying to overreach as well, which is not in its remit at all. and it's just so it's kind of a lot of the humour kind of really doesn't land, and it's a bit misjudged. But so that's why I'm kind of ranking it a bit further down. But yeah, Godface generally, that's what does it.
Yeah. Okay.
Mine is First Contact.
Okay.
Because
Wow.
we've
That's going to be at least 3 of us that don't rank it very high.
Mine's coming soon. It's coming soon.
It's such an overrated film. It is. It is so like GoldenEye.
Oh,
I will say GoldenEye is better than First Contact, so don't take that the wrong way. Because I think GoldenEye.
no, it's okay. They're both different.
No, GoldenEye is quite enjoyable. I don't think it's a bad film at all.
It's just overrated.
I can see why it is. Yeah, I can see
best
that.
in the series. It's like, really? Have you just missed Bond, or were you just the right age? Because it's not that good. Whereas First Contact is genuinely quite a poor film, actually.
I think what thing with Contact is, I think it came at a time where it was the Star Trek film that people wanted at that time. So it's like, oh yeah, Picard gets the Borg, and it was like, it was big screen, had like, it looked good and stuff like
It was
that.
flavour of the month, really, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, because at that time as well, you just had the show. It wasn't that long still after the show had finished. So you sold all the TNG fans, and so many of them Borg fans, because it didn't have, at that point, it hadn't been diluted by all the appearances of them in Voyager and Enterprise.
That's the problem. If this was, say we'd only seen the Borg in Q Who, and I mean literally just Q Who, like 12, 15 minutes of screen time, and they looked unbeatable. Might have worked better, but they'd been defagged by this point. And there's nothing wrong with that. You go through an arc with the villain. If you look at the way it was treated within the Next Generation, they completed a really interesting arc, and that was it. And that's fine. But they put it on the big screen because it's like their signature villain. And it only works if you've never seen a Star Trek film before, because Picard has dealt with the Borg perfectly fine all the way through the rest of the series after his kidnap and everything. It doesn't work. It's not a very good film. I don't understand why people put it top 3 or 4. I really don't. But it's very pretty.
Well,
I'm sure there
somehow.
must be somebody out there who likes it. I'm sure.
Well, somehow they manage.
Somehow.
So just to finish this off, my number 10 is Insurrection, and Insurrection is the poster boy for why I think this is such a difficult ranking to do, because I don't have any strong feelings about it. It's not hateful. I know Becca didn't like it, and I know it's not very popular and all the rest of it, but it's just a film. It's just there. It's all right, and I feel that way about most of this stuff. I don't
put them somewhere.
I don't understand why this film was on the big screen.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I went to the cinema. I don't feel cheated, because anytime I can watch the Next Generation crew, great. Fine, brilliant. So I go to see this film, and it's all right. And I think, well, I waited like 2 years, or 2.5 years for this. You could stick it in any season after season 3, and it wouldn't be a season highlight. It wouldn't. In any given series of the Next Generation, there are better stories than this. And you're looking at a planet, it's a bit like Generations when I get there, that you're looking at a planet where they're like, oh my God, what do we do? And it's like 300 people. If there were 300 people on Earth and somebody else wanted access to it, fucking fill your boots, it's massive. Nobody's thought this through, as usual. With crap films, half the time they haven't thought it through. So, yeah, I'm going to stick it where it is. I don't hate it. I couldn't put it any lower, but it's very typical of the Next Generation series of films. Absolutely dull. Number 10, Insurrection.
It's got a poor villain as well, isn't it? I don't think that helps. Like, the villain himself is just a bit... It's just... He's got a stretchy face. That's about it.
Stretchy face.
Yeah.
It's so boring.
Yeah. So, so that's number 10. So, on to number 9. Rebecca.
I'm incredibly nervous now, because I put Into Darkness at my number 9.
Why would you be nervous about that?
Well, no, it's just not because obviously there's a lot of Trek fans, and some of you listeners out there might be, die-hard fans who could be like, "Oh, it's the worst film ever." Rah, rah.
If any of you send Becca any death threats or any bad messages, I will come around and kick the shit out of you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you. No, it's just
Yes, that's mine and Dave's job.
9 is not good. Oh yeah, I protect Becca with my rusty masculinity.
It's a rusty knife.
It's not.
Yeah, I was like, hold on a minute.
I mean, 9 is not good, Becca. You are.
No. It's just one of those things.
Hated.
No, it's just as I say, I'm not sort of I've died in the Bond fan. That's what I am rather than Trek. But I do love it. But yeah, I mean, it's just. It's I can see how obviously with Khan it is a bit of a slap in the face, and it's the lowest rank of in my rankings from the reboot series so far. Whoever knows, Trek 14 could be terrible. It could be an absolute stinker that goes straight to the bottom. But let's hope it's not. But yeah, I just come back. It isn't. There's only one Khan, and that's Ricardo Montalban. I was trying not to make
And
it
his
wrong.
chest.
And his epic chest and his hair, which is amazing. But sadly, Cumberbatch and his emo hairdo can't save it. Can't be a modern Khan for this era. But he tries. Yeah, so that's kind of why I rank it sort of fairly low down, but not as low down as you guys. But that's mainly why it's at my number 9 position.
Okay. My number 9 is First Contact, and I honestly thought I'd rank it lower than anyone else because I just think it's one of these films that goes in the top 3 or 4 almost by default. It's the best Next Generation film, and it's got the Borg and all the rest of it.
It was like when I put GoldenEye reasonably low, and you were like surprised, and I'm kind of like, "Thank you, Chris."
Yeah, I mean, I was a little bit. I don't love GoldenEye either, but I at least acknowledge GoldenEye's importance. This film doesn't even have that. It's not important. I mean, if they'd done another film and it had done like Generations business, so be it. This film's not very good. It is one of the prettiest. I mean, if you put. To me, you've got the reboot, the first one, Star Trek 2009, and you've got this in terms of like the most attractive to look at Star Trek films. I think the E is gorgeous. It was gorgeous when it was a model, particularly. It certainly wasn't when it was CG. But this is a shit film. And when I look at like, it is very like GoldenEye in that like, love it if you like. I don't mind what you like.
Or GoldenEye.
And I'm not going to knock anything people like in that like it if you like. I think GoldenEye's a really enjoyable film. I do. I don't think it's very good.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I'm only joking. Don't worry.
No, but I think it's enjoyable.
Yeah, it's just overhyped.
And I kind of feel the same about First Contact. It's fine, but like, where did you get best in the series from? Because like most of what followed, it's better than this. So yeah, at 9, First Contact, really, really, really overrated film.
Charlie, what's your number 9?
My number 9 is Star Trek 5.
Oh,
I thought that would be higher.
I did too, actually.
Well, yeah, I wasn't sure.
it's a difficult one to place, I think.
I had to kind of weigh my personal feelings of nostalgia as well as how I feel about it, and I generally do enjoy it, and I genuinely do think that some of it is really interesting. Again, the potential compared to what it actually was is massively different, and Paramount completely fucked it with the kind of like budget as well. But yeah, objectively, it's not a great film, but I enjoy it, and kind of maybe I don't know if I was doing this again, maybe I would put it higher, maybe, but I think it's fine where it is.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's not a good film, is it, Charlie?
No.
And again, to anyone who likes these things, no one is saying it's like when we talk about GoldenEye.
It's opinion,
Chris put it
really.
like 17, 18 or anything. It's like, well, that's genuinely where what it belongs, but it's not like don't enjoy it. It's like, well, enjoy what you like.
Yeah.
If you genuinely like this film, fine. And it's the same with anything here. I'm not ridiculing people who like First Contact, for example. I just think it's overrated. I'll argue why it's overrated.
Plus, it'll be boring if we all agreed on the same shit as well.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, if we all just like pretty much did more or less exactly what every other Star Trek countdown of the films would be, you'd just be like, what's the fucking point? It's not more interesting to actually have, like, you know, shake it up a little bit, I think. So maybe that's part of what spurs me on to put on certain rankings the way they are. But it just sort of it
So
makes
Chris-
blood boil. But but generally, I like, you know, it's from a point of honesty, and I think
What
it
have you
makes
got at
it
number
more
9?
interesting. Nemesis. I put Nemesis. I mean, we are starting to creep out the crapness. We are getting out there now.
I don't think Nemesis objectively is as bad as its reputation.
No,
I tend to just think like we were all fed up with it by then, and none of the next generation had really like grabbed our attention.
No, I mean, it's not a great film.
No.
But I think out the you know, the next gen films, there's 2 I would probably stick on. This would be one of them if I was more on a kind of, I feel something very light and fun and loose and shooty and stuff. I'll probably put this on, and it's like vaguely like Rafa Khan, so okay. And it's got Tom Hardy in,
It's
and
very like the Wrath of Khan, isn't it?
and it's
Yes.
and it's got Tom Hardy in, so it's got things in it that are enjoyable. So it
It was
doesn't-
such a disappointment in it though for me. I just
yeah, I know it's fine. It's fine.
Anyway.
It doesn't look very good. But you know, it's above it. I put it above most of the crapness just because I think, well, you know what, it's probably one I'd watch every so often. Plus, it's got Jim Dale in it, so so yeah, my number 9 is Nemesis.
Allendale,
Jim
Allendale. Yes.
Jim Robinson.
Jim Robinson.
Jim Robinson.
Allendale.
Like those two.
Dale from Carry On.
Yes.
How do you
Oh,
very
no,
different
really?
film.
So where are we up to now? Number 8.
So basically,
How did we miss him?
it would have been bottom, but Jim Robinson.
Yes.
Saves the day.
But yeah, Jim Robinson, Neighbours.
All right,
I've got
go
Perlman's
I'll
in it
go
as well,
first-
so-
I'll go first on the number 8s then.
Yes, go on
I
then.
put The Search for Spock at number 8, and
Oh.
I kind of I've got, this is where the bottom 7 or so are kind of difficult because number 7. So the bottom 7 or 8, they're all films that I struggle with, in that, with the exception of Into Darkness, which is the reason I did put it bottom in the end. I can't get angry about it. I mean, The Search for Spock has some nice relationships. The stealing of the Enterprise is terrific. It's really good. And so there's lots of positives to it. But it looks really cheap. It just looks like they ran out of money. And it's also a film that is literally there to undo the previous film. And that's not good. You cannot defend that as great filmmaking. So I'm not fond of it, I have to say. Ronald D. Moore, on his commentary on this film, said that it did a better job than Generations. I don't agree, frankly. So number 8, Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock.
I will say this: I think the destruction of the Enterprise is better in that than Generations.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah. Charlie?
My number 8 is Star Trek 2009. I enjoy it. A lot of it pisses me off still. It's really, really stupid. But I can sit down and I can. There's some really, really lovely bits. The opening is amazing. And a lot of the kind of the way they kind of reconceptualized, recontextualized Star Trek was really nice. I don't love it, so that's why initially my placing was it. I wasn't sure about it because I don't love it, but yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because it's, again, the script isn't very good, but you know, you can't put it. It's not like as insulting as Into Darkness, because it's still fun, you know.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not quite that bad. Doesn't get as much things too wrong with it. Becca, what's your number 8?
My number 8 is First Contact. Mainly due for the effects, I think. The effects and the costumes and the makeup.
Not the really well plotted structure of the film.
No. And sort of shallow bits of the film. The sort of, as in before, it's all is executed quite poorly in terms of like the plot and the central villain, which is a great shame. And they've gone in. I think it's quite impressive. Easily impressed me. And that's my number 8. Yeah, First Contact is at my number 8 spot. I like the story is kind of sort of decent, but it's just kind of not executed in the right kind of way, I think. Chris, what's your number 8?
My number 8 is Star Trek Generations. I think we're getting into the ones that I actually enjoy now. I don't think it's a good film, though I really, really like seeing the 2 captains cooking breakfast. I think maybe it's just a bit of nostalgia for Generations, like seeing the 2 captains working together. I like Malcolm McDowell as a villain. It's not terribly cinematic, but it looks good for what it is. And I kind of enjoy my time with it. It's not great by any means, but there we are. It's Star Trek Generations at number 8. So, moving swiftly on, at number 7, who wants to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. It's absolutely fine. This is the last film, in my opinion, that I find difficult to rank. In that, like, my top 6, I don't find difficult at all. I think I have a strong feeling where they should be. My number 7 is Generations. The big thing when you look at this list of like my bottom 7 or so is like, where should it go relative to First Contact? It's a better film than First Contact, in my opinion. It's only my opinion. You know, people can disagree. First Contact is wildly overrated. Neither of them are great, but I think Generations is a little bit more entertaining and a little bit less pretentious of the 2 of them. So yeah, that's it for me. My number 7, Generations.
Charlie, what's your number 7?
My number 7 is Generations as well.
So we all kind of have similar Generations then.
Yeah, I still really enjoy it. The themes of kind of death and time really, really appeal to me. And I think it looks great. The third act is where it kind of pisses in the wind a bit, but other than that, I really, really enjoy it. And I really like it.
Is it one of those Trek films that the bad stuff, you know, like when they're in the Nexus and how that's not really very well drawn out, and the fact that they can just go in and out without no problems. Those sort of things, do you find like, okay, I can kind of like just enjoy the badness of it by laughing at it, kind of rather than like the films below that, or is that you just that always make you go, oh, for God's sake, wish that wasn't there.
No, I'm able to gloss when I watch it. I'm able to gloss over that stuff.
Yeah.
It almost as if it doesn't occur to me.
Yeah.
Because I enjoy the other parts of the film. What's your number 7, Becca?
My number 7 is Search for Spock. Have you seen him anywhere? Where is he? Can't miss him. He's got pointy ears, odd hairdo.
So that's the other one to give him a call.
Yeah.
Having said that,
What's this bloke called Khan?
How did you stop him?
That's where.
Well,
right. That's what's at my number 7 spot. Slowly coming into decent Trek film territory now. Chris, what's your number 7?
Well, you'll be pleased to know it's getting a nosebleed being up this high. It's it's Star Trek V: The Final Frontier.
Wow.
I still like it. I mean, I know it's not a great film. It has its flaws. I think it still looks great. I think it has shots in it look great. It has moments, it has ideas that I like. I still like God's a busy man. Like, that's just me.
Busy man.
I like Shatner questioning God, or supposedly is God. I think that's a good moment for the character. Yeah, Godface. And even though it's not a very good film, I still find it watchable as hell. So for that, I'm putting it firmly in my number 7 spot. So that's number 7. So we're up to number 6. So who wants to go first?
What's your number 6, Chris?
My number 6. Okay,
You can go first.
I'll go first. My number 6 is the 2009. Yeah, that was the year. 2009 Star Trek. We're getting into the good ones now. I find this film really, really watchable. It has gone down from where I originally perceived it, because I used to really, really regard this film as like really, really good blockbuster. But the script is pretty bad now on reflection. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it's still enjoyable, and it's still easily watched. I still enjoy it, even though it does get some of the Star Trek lore wrong. That is Star Trek at my number 6.
I guess it's an interesting thought that being where you were at the start of this series and where you are now, how much have yourself or your opinions have essentially changed in the different context of me and Dave?
Yeah, well, it's because I've watched the characters as well. I mean, I've always had yours and Dave's input, but I've also seen like the characters, and watching these characters, and I've also seen some of the original series now as well. But actually seeing the characters portrayed in the J.J. Abrams films, I go, okay, well, you kind of fucked that up, haven't you? I kind of see where Trek fans are coming from. So that became that's a bit of an issue, and I kind of see where it's kind of dumb as well. So for that, I can't honestly put it any higher. I mean, I was tempted to put it a bit higher, but I generally looking at the other films, I have to say they are better films. So it firmly sits in my number 6 spot. I mean, it's a better film than Final Frontier. I kind of enjoy Final Frontier, but it is a better film than that. So, yeah. But I think that's kind of why it's good to do the shows, isn't it? Because you get to sort of like watch films as they go and get to know characters and see how they match up to everything else.
I think the top half a dozen series is pretty good. I mean, I'll go next. I've put at number 6 the motion picture, and at the outset of this series, I would have put it in the bottom 3 or 4. And I think even Charlie would understand why, because this film is slow and there's what's wrong with it. But it has an almost unique feel to it. It has an almost unique... I think what I like about this film is it's got an attention to detail. It's got a prestige filmmaker putting a prestige spin on Star Trek. And
it feels sci-fi, doesn't it? It does feel proper sci-fi.
Yeah. And I think the problem with the film is that if you spend the film saying, wait till we get there, what we're going to get to is amazing, what you're going to get to has to be amazing. And it kind of isn't. But to put this film in the top 6, and believe me, from 6 upwards they're films I enjoy, I think is a real sign that I've reappraised this film. I think it's really enjoyable. So the motion picture at number 6 for me.
Funny you should say that, Dave. I've got the same. Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun.
It's a miracle. No, I just...
Captain Chaos.
Yeah. First of all, it was slightly higher for me originally, and then I had a quick rewatch of a few of them, and it slid down a few places. But it's, as you're saying, even though it's called a motion picture, but there's not a lot of motion in it. Not very much happens. But at the actual basic level. But yeah, it's enjoyable to watch. In terms of like its philosophical outlook, like you said, on kind of meditation of age and aging and things like that. It actually has a lot to say, and that's why it's in my number 6 position.
My number 6 is Star Trek Beyond, which I think is quite an honour for a new Star Trek film to be up that high.
Yeah, that surprised me a little bit.
But I really, really like it. It's still got some teething problems, but the characters finally feel like the characters they're supposed to be. It doesn't feel particularly stupid as the other ones do. And it just feels something that just resembles the Star Trek I love.
And it is actually really enjoyable as well. As a film, it's quite solid. It's really...
Yeah, absolutely. I really like it, yeah.
Good solid action now, I think.
Yeah.
And by that time, the characters have evolved too.
So, yeah, that's our number 6 done. Well, my number 5 is the film... what's it for? Is the motion picture.
Cool.
Yeah, it was a first. It was kind of basically. I think it was more as a first watch for me, and actually sitting down and watching it in its entirety. I can see why it's not the most popular, and it's not the Star Trek film I would probably pick up and watch many times if I do pick up a Star Trek film. I must admit, but that doesn't mean I don't respect it. I think its faults as a film is the fact that it's very lightweight. It doesn't have much going for it. And it is overly slow to pick up running time, I do think. But apart from that, it looks like a sci-fi film. It feels like a sci-fi film. It has ambition. I think it looks great. And as Dave says, it does feel like a cinematic prestige film. It does fit, So for that, I think motion picture gets a bad rap. And I respect it as a Star Trek film because...
I think we've all gained something out of it. I mean, put it this way.
Yeah.
I've put it at 6. Becca's put it at 6. You put it at 5. And that's 3 non-fans, really. Out of 13 films, we've all put it in the top half. And they are films that, like, popular culture would have us believe belong down with, like, Star Trek 5.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the very fact that... I mean, it proves... how can I put it? It proves the validity of what we do in that we come in and we watch it with fresh eyes, and it proves we actually do that because I wouldn't have put it in the top half at the start.
No. And I think what I really like about it is proper Trek. I mean, the story itself is very light on its feet. I mean, it is basically just a extended Trek episode, but it is Trek. It's not like the other ones where it's just a sci-fi actioner with a Star Trek badge on it.
As I said earlier, it's probably one of the most undiluted.
Yeah, it is. It is actually Star Trek. So for that, you have to take your hat off to it, and good on it. So yeah, that's my number 5.
My number 5, and as I say, I'm a lot more sure about my top 6 than the rest. I put Star Trek Beyond at number 5. I think that it is the most original series of the reboots. It is. But at the same time, the ship disappears in the first, half an hour. And it all feels a little bit unnecessary. Now, every film's unnecessary. You write a film, you put it out, it gets an audience or it doesn't. But it does almost feel like they had a deadline to hit, and they hit it, and this film is neither here nor there. It's just a bit of a caper, and I'm sick of waiting 3-4 years at a time for just an unnecessary caper. But at the same time, it is objectively, in my opinion, it's
a
not
franchise saver.
Well, I haven't put it the highest yet, but yeah, I think it's a franchise saver, Chris. I think, although Into Darkness grossed well, I think it's one of those films that turned sour, in everyone's mouth as soon as it came out.
Yeah.
It did okay, but like 6 months later, everyone fucking hated it. And if this film had come out at the same standard, I don't think we'd have seen any more. I think I think Beyond is almost like a placeholder film. Can't rank it any higher because it is that placeholder, but at the same time, it's kept the series going, and that's good enough for me.
I mean, it depends on how well the new film with Chris Hemsworth's going to do, isn't it?
It happens, yeah.
Yeah, but it definitely. I mean, if this film wasn't good or didn't do as well,
I mean, I think that
it'll be dead in the water now, won't it?
It's a sign of how mediocre I think most of this series is, that it's this high. And I don't mean to do it down by that, because I did like Star Trek Beyond, but there's nothing about it that really stands out to me, other than they've come closer to their characters than before. But the fact is, it's like it's just there, it's okay, and I put it 5th out of like 13. That tells me the series isn't that strong. But I am kind of proud to put it where it is. So at number 5 for me, Star Trek Beyond.
Go on, Charlie.
My number 5 is The Voyage Home. This is a film I've kind of had a love-hate relationship over the years, but I've kind of recently just learned to just love it. I think because I've embraced that it's a comedy, and I think that's something that I know a lot of other Trek fans, apart from myself, have kind of pushed back, and especially since it was the one that was most popular and most people knew. To the point where it was released in England almost as a secret Star Trek film. They kind of downplayed it completely on the marketing and all that kind of thing. But just, I mean, it's fun all the way through. But the Kirk and Spock relationship and the double act, the comedy double act, all the way through is just what makes it. So it's great and deservedly number 5.
Okay, Becca, what's your
We
number?
are
My number 5
films now.
spot. Yeah, going into the we must find that somewhere. I'm copying you, Dave. Sorry, I've got Beyond as my number 5 spot as well. I think I kind of agree with kind of what's gone before, really. In terms of like critical and fan reception, even though it grossed quite well at the box office. So you watch it now compared to like Carl, and you just think, really? And Cumberbatch, amazing though I think he is obviously with Sherlock as well, kind of like favourite of the month. But hope he'll do much better things, I'm sure. But yeah, it's kind of like with Beyond, we've got Justin Lin sort of coming in, sort of breathing new life in. As you said, it's a sort of franchise saver, really. It's got good action. All the characters are more fully developed. And I love, obviously, just mentioned you've got the Spock and Bones kind of double act, as it were, if not a comedy double act, but you see them spend more time together, which is really good. And it's just more rounded as a film. It works as both sort of an action adventure, sci-fi, and a sort of like an ensemble piece as well. So that's why it's at my number 5 position.
Okay, so that leaves us, we're at number 4.
Into the big leagues now.
Yeah, it's all uphill from here. Who would like to go first for this?
My top 4 are all films I'm really fond of. I mean, I can't be negative about anything. I've put Star Trek 4 at number 4. I think
Snap
that
as well for
when
me.
we watched it, well, we'll get to it. Well, yeah, okay. Well, okay, so that's 3 of us. Well,
Got something right, yeah.
Okay, well, I'll talk about it now then. So Becca, me, and Chris have all put Star Trek 4 at number 4.
Yeah.
It's not a film that I think there's anything there to hate. I think it's all really kind of enjoyable, and that's it really. I haven't got anything more to say about it than that. It's not perfect. It's not great. It's good.
It's not necessarily what you want when you think of a Star Trek film, is it? They all go back to Earth in modern day to save a whale. But I think, in terms of keeping with Star Trek, I think it keeps to its values quite well, really. And I suppose it's refreshing to see. It actually works rather well. It's not too kooky. Don't sort of overplay the comedy. Shatner's actually okay in it. Nimoy actually handles direction well, and is actually on screen and is great with the humour. Even though he's kind of playing the I don't think idiot's too much a strong word, but he's kind of like an idiot with a straight face. But you know, but it's because of like how he is. You know, it just works really, really well. And there's some charm to it, and even though Shatner does get like knocked back at the end, just like so.
That date is a bit cringeworthy to watch, but they just think, oh well, you know.
Yeah, zero sexual chemistry between.
Unfortunately, yeah, there's zero chemistry generally.
Yeah, that's the thing. Charlie, I think I know what you're going to put in number 4, but enlighten us.
I've put The Undiscovered Country. Was that?
I had those two and those. Well, I originally had that number 2, and then that was number 4. But I switched them around frequently. But yeah, they're quite nearby to each other. So.
Yeah, this like kind of Dave said, this is where we kind of get into all the films that I really enjoyed the hell out of, with very few reservations. And yeah, Undiscovered Country is just a really great film. The whole kind of Cold War stuff is really interesting, and certainly was at the time. The kind of detective story is good, and the action bits that there are.
Okay,
Now, hang on a
trampolining.
minute. You've ranked it lowest of the 4 of us, and yet you've said the detective story is good, and I reckon all 3 of the rest of us will think the detective story is rubbish, and we've ranked it higher.
Well, it's not the best thing about it, but and
It's nice to have
clearly
in though, isn't it?
Nicholas Meyer's indulgence, but it's fun, you know.
Exactly.
absolutely.
That's why I rank so high, because it's a fun film.
Yeah,
I love it. I genuinely love it.
and the ending is beautiful.
It's very endearing as well.
Yeah,
There's lots of endearing qualities to it.
You know, the Next Generation crew loved each other as human beings. I mean, like Patrick Stewart and all the rest of it. They all really cared for each other. They were probably closer than the original crew to each other. And yet a goodbye from this crew meant so much more. And I'm not quite sure why.
yeah.
No, it's a weird one, isn't it? It's a bit of an odd
Yeah,
one.
they loved each other. They really did.
That's the thing. When Nemesis came around, it was all billed as the end of the era and that kind of thing, and the generation's final journey and whatever. And you didn't really feel that. Whereas here, that final scene where they all come together on the bridge, it really feels there. Like there's a sense of camaraderie there that didn't really appear in any of the following films.
It didn't, and I don't understand why. Just on the basis that they were closer to each other as people, the Next Generation crew.
Is that, when you say that, is that like as in the actors were, or as in like the characters?
Yeah, that's
just...
exactly what I mean.
Right, okay.
If you look at the original crew, DeForest Kelley, basically the main three, DeForest Kelley, Leonard Nimoy, and William Shatner all cared for each other as people. But the rest of them not only weren't that bothered about each other, but they didn't really like Shatner. So it was a series with an awful lot more interpersonal conflict than the Next Generation crew, who genuinely all adore each other. They still meet up for dinner every time they can. So like Patrick Stewart, Brent Spiner, they're all great friends, and I do believe that. And in the TV series, it's probably noticeable in that, like, I feel that like I said in the very first episode, that there's more of a feeling of an ensemble than there is in the original crew. But when you get to the end of Star Trek 6 and they're saying goodbye, that's emotional in a way that the Next Generation crew could never have managed, and I'm not really sure why.
I'm going to throw a guess here. Now, I've not seen the last episode of Next Gen. Would you say that has those similar sort of feels in that episode? Because I'm kind of thinking they kind of already had their goodbyes.
All Good Things finishes with them in, like, I can't remember whose quarters it is, but let's say Data's for the sake of it. And they're all playing poker. And Picard says, I should have done this a long time ago. Meaning, and Troy says to him, you're always welcome. Meaning we could have been closer than we are. Yeah. They do. It's not that the crew couldn't do it, but we're sat here talking about the film series, and the original crew's goodbye was more emotional than anything the Next Generation could have even if they'd done another film that had been expressly designed as a goodbye. I don't think they could have matched it.
It could slightly be that they, in terms of the generation, the Next Generation, that they've actually completed their arc, and the films are kind of just like, I don't know, just little extras kind of thing.
Half the problem. The original crew got cut down in their prime. Not only did they get to come back to finish it, but they got to come back and finish it like 10 years later. So they got to like rethink why they were there. Whereas the Next Generation wrapped up the series and then went, let's make some films. And so I think you're right. I think that the Next Generation never thought about why they were on the big screen.
But to pick it up with the original crew, to parallel, I think why you probably feel, shall we say, a bit more nostalgic for that, because I think is time. You know, you got to think back. You know, they've got like this is starting from the '60s, and now they're here. It's their final time. They're there together. This is it. And there's also like a sense of, with that comes history, doesn't it? So yes, while you probably think, okay, they've not always got on, to see them on screen together, almost showing that camaraderie, it's a nicer, more feel that pays off. It goes like, oh, that's really nice. But compare that to Next Gen, where they've always got on, you know. So it always feels a bit. It doesn't quite have that same punch, even though it still feels nice. It's still, you you still want it, but I think it just pays off more when you like with the original creature. You got time, and also you've got that polarized opinions of each other. So when they do finally show solidarity, even though it's just for a moment for a film, it's nicer. It feels it works a lot better. It feels like a lot more. I don't know. I think it just works more. I think it hits you harder.
I think Dave was certainly right in terms of what the intentions were when they brought the original crew back and when they brought the Next Generation crew onto films, because they've been trying to make original crew. They had the whole Phase 2 TV series, and they've been trying to make that, and then they were trying to make a film, and then kind of Star Wars came out, and that was the kind of impetus for Paramount to actually give it a proper budget and do it for that. And then because of the time that passed from that, which was over 10 years, then they had kind of that feeling there. And also at that point, Star Trek hadn't been around for ages, so there was that factor. And also it was 2 years after Star Wars, the motion picture, so those kind of films were still relatively fresh. Those kind of things that at the time of Generations we took for granted. Because 2 years after Generations, you had Independence Day. A couple of years before it, you had Terminator 2. So you'd have there'd just be this kind of constant explosion of these films that were getting more and more, these blockbusters that were getting more and more sophisticated. And then you take the Next Generation crew. They were certainly popular, but certainly in All Good Things they had wrapped it up, and there were it wasn't all a happy family either. Certainly in All Good Things, one thing that was really wrapped up was the animosity between Riker and Worf over Troy, and that was something that was certainly addressed. And the ending of All Good Things is absolutely beautiful, and even just if All Good Things, if they decided to end the series before All Good Things and then put All Good Things as the first film, then I would have had that top 3, top 4.
I really should watch All Good Things then, shouldn't I?
Yeah, I think I should go for a rewatch.
But I never got there with the Next Gen. So where does that leave us then? We all done with number
top 3.
So we all got number 3. Okay, who wants to go first with their top 3?
Star Trek, well, Trek 2009 as we called it, my number 3. Yeah, it's the first of the reboot series. Many people go, oh, it's maybe like the weakest one, maybe. But no, I enjoyed it. It's something new, wasn't it? And it's very much kind of bringing back a much loved series for a new audience. I just think some of the casting was quite good. I mean, Chris Pratt has obviously been a sort of action, kind of more as like a rom-com hero, but like a Quinto sort of fresh off like sci-fi with like Heroes and other similar shows. It was just, you know, it really kind of captured the imagination of what Trek fans are, from my point of view anyway. And that's why it belongs to my number 3 slot
I
on
will
this rankings chart.
I will say this for Trek, the sort of Star Trek, the 2009 one, is it was a good introduction for non-Trek fans to get into it.
Yeah, definitely.
Even though
if like me, you're like new to the series or had only seen next gen films,
yeah,
then it was a way in.
And the concept was smart as well. How they sort of
Plus, it looks so shiny.
Yes, lots of lens flare. Sorry, Dave, I cut you off.
Yeah, the lens flare I didn't like so much. But
I put Star Trek 2009 in the same place. Now,
Oh,
on the one hand, it's a reflection of really enjoying this film. But on the other hand, I think it's a sign of how weak this series is. Because I love Star Trek, but my third best film is a very compromised, very commercial,
a bit watered down,
very
isn't it?
badly written
Arguably.
film. Now, it's got a sense of joy to it. I mean, I walked out nearly in tears. I mean, I was just so happy it had come back, and I had the music, and I had just Star Trek back, and it needed rebooting. I know fans don't want that. They want, you know, it's carry on from Voyager and all the rest of it. But, like, let somebody else play in your sandpit. And no one was able to. And you don't get that. You know, the big fans just don't get it at all. I wish they did. I wish I could get it across to people who love Star Trek but hate the reboots, how necessary this was. But at the same time, it didn't help its own cause by being really fucking stupid. And this film is like, you know, Exhibit B, effectively, because Into Darkness is worse. But it's not very bright. And Chris Pine's miscast. I mean, he's better by the time we get to Beyond, but he's miscast. But at the same time, it needed something. And the very fact I walked out with, like, tears in my eyes tell me that this got it more right than wrong. So it's a sign the series is weak, that such a flawed film is at 3, but it's also a sign that this film got a lot more right than it got wrong. So at number 3 for me, Star Trek 2009.
Yeah, I must admit, I did leave the cinema buzzing when I left it when I saw it at the cinema. So it was that enjoyable.
That hard. I mean, Charlie's put like Beyond ahead of it, for example, and I don't think he's wrong. I think it's a bit like when you talk about The Living Daylights versus License to Kill. You're not wrong, whatever your opinion is there.
Yeah, they're both great.
As much as I've got an opinion, and it's a strong opinion, and 3 of the 4 of us, at least, in fact, all 4 of us, I think, share the same opinion. But there is a case to be made the other way, and it's the same with this, that this film is so flawed that the fact you might put a relatively safety-first film like Beyond ahead of it doesn't surprise me, and it is safety-first Beyond. It doesn't make any mistakes. It's trying to like get it right, and it largely does it, but it doesn't excite me in the same way this film did, for all its flaws. So it belongs in the top 5 Beyond, but this belongs in the top 3.
So is it Charlie?
It is.
Yeah, my number 3 is The Search for Spock.
Oh.
Yeah.
We've not made fun of each other all night. This is the closest I would get then. Top 3, really.
Well, I was just thinking Star Trek 09 at number 3, WTF.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about this, because this film is just cheap and nasty.
You surprised yourself with it, didn't you?
I think so,
Surprised
yeah.
even Charlie.
I think so.
I love this film. I love it. It's definitely got some weaker points, and I myself find it kind of, some bits are kind of boring. some of the kind of stuff when they're just walking around the planet and the weather's changing and stuff like that. But there are so many indelible images from this film and sequences that are just kind of seared into my brain.
I would say, Charlie, the stealing of the Enterprise is better than anything in Star Trek 2009.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'd definitely say that if you stop them both after 45 minutes, Search for Spock wins. No doubt.
Yeah, I guess, and the destruction of the Enterprise as well, for me, is
well, it
amazing.
had an emotion that no future destructions could match.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, and kind of that's what does help the film for me, is that I do find it very emotional, and whether it's a means to an end or not, and yeah, it just, I mean, yeah, I could talk about the fact that it does look cheap in places. I think it looks great in places as well. I mean, the stuff with the new miniatures and the space dock and the Excelsior and the bird of prey.
The Excelsior looks amazing, and also Space Dock, when they leave it, is lit amazingly.
Yeah, I mean,
such a cheap film that looks wonderful.
Definitely hampered by the fact that Paramount wouldn't let him go on location. So everything was done on stage in the entire film, and just the end is so beautiful. And
very long-winded, though, the ending, isn't it?
The end, the kind of maybe the.
I mean, nothing's ever perfect, Charlie. I mean, I'm not.
Oh no,
I'm
not
criticizing. I am criticizing it, but I do understand that nothing's ever perfect.
Oh yeah, but when I say the ending, I mean the final ending. As soon as it's over and Spock's about to be taken on his way back to the thing, and then when he stops and talks to Kirk, and there's that perfect moment, and then
big family hug,
a massive, huge rush of emotion. And then James Horner finishes it off with the original Star Trek theme, with the actual theme, not the fanfare. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful moment. And
I love his score, actually. I always thought of 3 as a lesser 2, but actually his score stands comparison to anything in 2.
Yeah. It's on a much more kind of more emotional side than, 2. If you boil down to it, 2 probably got the greater emotional moments because of what happened, but in terms of kind of the general tone of it, whereas 2 is a lot more swashbuckling and that kind of thing. Yes. Screw you all.
Yes. Fuck you too. Yes. Fuck you too. Sexual chocolate.
Colourful metaphors.
All right, Chris, what have you got at 3?
Number 3, I have Beyond. I was actually quite surprised this was quite high. Yeah.
I would have been at the outset, but when you talked about it in review, I sensed that surprise. I was like, yeah, I think he's edging that way.
Yeah, I just generally, I think it's funny because I was kind of like, yeah, it's okay coming out of cinema. It didn't have that same buzz as the 09 Star Trek did.
Well, I think if you wanted proof of that, Chris, go back and listen to Chris and I on the Cinematronics podcast at the end of the summer.
Yeah,
we were all very, very positive about it, but almost not positive enough. We were damning it with faint praise. We were all like, yeah, it's all right. And actually, after Into Darkness, it was all we wanted.
Well, it's watching this in context of everything else. It was the Star Trek film that needed just to rewrite Into Darkness off the planet. It does make that film completely redundant. This is what the sequel to Star Trek 09 should have been. Yes. I think it's solid. It's enjoyable. It gets the characters right. I think it's well handled. I think
it makes the worst film in the series obsolete.
Yes, And
Yeah.
and I think the only real flaw this film really has is the villain needed work. It just what
He seems like an afterthought, doesn't he, Chris?
Yeah, and to be honest,
If you gave this series like a handicap system, i.e., you rank the films, but like you took account of the problems they were up against, i.e., you went, well, Star Trek V, it got its budget slashed, or whatever.
Yeah.
If you took into account how quickly this was written, it would be higher for all of us. It's not a bad film. It's just you've got to judge what's in front of you, and it has been compromised by the fact that they really rushed it.
but I think even that, I think they nailed what was key and important. And I think
It's one of the best rushed films I've ever seen.
yeah. So, and I don't know. I think watching it again, it was just really enjoyable, and I think it looks great as well. The destruction of the Enterprise, even though it feels like we've seen it all before, but I think what's really good about it,
Okay.
and I think and I will, even though I put Spock, Search Spock, really really low, when the Enterprise gets destroyed in that, it actually
I felt bad. I mean, I put it at 8,
yeah,
which is towards the top of my bottom 6 or 7 or so,
yeah,
and it's because they're all kind of bland. But I can't hate the Search for Spock. It's all right.
but
And the thing is, it has to sit between the Wrath of Khan, which is wonderful, and the Voyage Home, which is really enjoyable. And it holds its own, if you like. It's not like magnificent, dreadful, magnificent when you look at the 3. It's the weakest of the 3, but it's all right. And to that basis, I can't be too harsh on it. So, like, I'm kind of happy with putting it at 8th.
yeah. But even the destruction of the Enterprise, though, it's I did put it low, but at least in that film, it means something. So I can't take that away from it. It doesn't necessarily mean too much in Generations, but in Beyond, yes, they destroyed the Enterprise again, but it actually means something. It actually represents something as a purpose for that. So,
Yes.
I tip my hat to it. I think I really admire it, and I think it's really, really well crafted film with issues aside on certain things. But generally speaking, I think it did a really good job, and they've introduced a new character, which I think everyone is fairly happy with.
I really would like Jayla to replace Chekhov.
Yeah, I think it makes sense, doesn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. So I think it did a really good job, and also the cast have never been better in the roles, Chris Pine included. So
I cannot argue.
They're definitely a high point in the new series.
I mean, you would expect them to get better over time, but this is like a quantum leap.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's like working with a plot that makes sense, isn't it?
But yeah, that makes all the difference.
Top 2, folks. Let's get this done so we can fuck off and go home and move on to something else. Watch a film series we aren't really bored with. I love Star Trek, but I am really happy to be done with this. Okay, number 2 for me, and I think there's going to be a bit of agreement here, is The Undiscovered Country. Now, The Undiscovered Country is very slightly hamstrung by a very poor murder mystery. But that is purely like an intellectual response. In that, like, if I look at it and go, right, okay, what works, what doesn't, I can pick holes in it. If I was determined to just watch it and enjoy it as it goes along, wouldn't really be a problem. And I think Kim Cattrall is not an actress I like, is wonderful in this. I think Leonard Nimoy's wonderful in this. I think Shatner's wonderful in this. And it's bookended by terrible performances from the Shat. He's crap in 5 and he's crap in 7. I love... They are too old. This film has no right to be working at all, because they're too old. I mean, they really are. And the thing is, you don't have to be young to captain a starship. It's not about running around. It's one of my problems with the reboot. It's all about youth. This isn't. But there's a difference between Wrath of Khan old and Undiscovered Country old. They're getting too old by now. It's time this was over. And when you throw in like a ham-fisted murder mystery and some dodgy, morphing effects and all the rest of it. This should have been a disaster, but it's written by Nicholas Meyer. It's directed and written by Nicholas Meyer. It's handled by somebody who understands the themes of getting older and having to let go. And this crew make a virtue of the fact, or this film makes a virtue of the fact the crew's too old, in that they're brought up against the Klingons, and instead of just going, let's judge this situation as it is, they're going, well, they've always been our enemy, so they're carrying with them a bunch of like age-old prejudice, and they don't just like carry it in vague dialogue. It comes out in the way they behave. They have dinner with the Klingons, and frankly, if you had to like stop the film at the end of that and said who's in the right, the Klingons were less piss potty than fucking the Federation. The Federation behaved like idiots, even like seasoned captains like Kirk. I just think it's wonderful to take a crew that are too old and don't really work in the parts anymore, and take the fact that they're too old and don't work in the parts anymore and make a virtue of it. It's wonderful to see Sulu on his own ship. It's wonderful to see Spock. I mean, it's probably the best Leonard Nimoy performance in the series. So it's flawed, but I have to say it's only flawed because the film ahead of it's a masterpiece. If the film I put at number 1 didn't exist, this would be a very distinguished number 1. So at number 2 for me, Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country.
Yep, I absolutely agree. Yeah, number 2.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't have said it better, Dave. It was my first Star Trek film going in, and what I actually really like about it is actually quite adult. It doesn't pander to any audience outside of Star Trek. It's like, oh, we've got to have like, sort of unnecessary action
It doesn't
scenes.
make heroes of the Federation.
Yeah.
It does because they're on the side of right. But that dinner is such a key scene to me because the Federation are fucking idiots during it.
I just think the dinner scene is pretty just awkward on everyone. I mean, I don't feel
no one comes out of it very well, do they? But when you look at, say, the motion picture, which I've got a lot of positive things to say about, but Kirk is just a bit too much of a twat. When I look at this film, yeah, Kirk is a twat, but like they killed his son. And he's right on the verge of retirement. Why would he want to change now? So it's all perfectly understandable. But we have to sit and watch this really awkward dinner. And I like it.
But it's actually quite mature. You got Christopher Plummer being a good villain as well, which also helps.
You're chewing up the scenery.
Yeah, quoting Shakespeare and whatever.
It's not so much dialogue; it's just exchanging quotes and
but
quoting Shakespeare at each other. And...
Yeah, I mean, it's
they overdo the Shakespeare.
Yeah,
they do, but it's a nice touch and it's a very poignant film, obviously, because it's the last film with like the original
You never
crew.
understand Shakespeare unless you hear it in the original Klingon.
That's it.
Probably one of the best.
Best line in the film.
But we've all got it top 4 though, folks.
Yeah,
and I think that speaks to this film. It's flawed. It is. I mean, we're 3 at least of us are going to put the same film at the top, and we can't pick the same sort of holes in it that we can with this. But it's wonderful. I mean, for all of its flaws, and I can pick a lot of flaws with this film. They're too old. The murder mystery's rubbish, etc., etc. But The Undiscovered Country is absolutely grade A Star Trek. And Chris said earlier in the series, he said that like if I had to introduce someone, I'd start them with The Undiscovered Country. And at the time, I was like, I don't get what you mean, because there's a weight of history that informs this film. Having said that, if I had to pick the best bits of the original series, The Undiscovered Country, and the Star Trek original series crew films, it's all distilled in this film. I think this is actually a wonderful introduction to Star Trek to anybody, providing you're there to talk to them afterwards. So when they finish watching this and they say, well, what is it about the Klingons and why did Kirk feel this way? Providing you can answer those questions afterwards, this is actually a really good place to start.
Becca, do you want to add anything before we go to Charlie for his number 2?
Pardon? No, I think you pretty much said it all.
We're all about to have a big number 1, though.
Okay. What you do in bathroom is your own private time. No, I think it's pretty much been said, and you guys have said it so eloquently before. Obviously, it's poignant because it's last one. Obviously, the classic crew. That's before obviously Roddenberry as well. Yeah, so let's find out, Charlie. What's at your number 2 spot on this ranking chart?
My number 2 is going to be everyone's number 1, which is The Wrath of Khan.
Yeah. Do tell.
So no, it's just it's a masterpiece. I love it, but another film just edges it.
Just pips it to the post.
Yeah.
Okay, I think actually, because we ought to finish off talking about The Wrath of Khan, so let's go on to your number 1, Charlie. Tell us why it's your number 1.
Right. So my number 1 is obviously the motion picture, just because it just has.
It has a place in your heart, basically.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, the thing is, just for my part, the motion picture's gone from near the bottom to like top half, and that's genuine. I've seen more in it this time than I've ever seen before. But of all of the films that aren't in the top 2 or 3 for me, the motion picture is the one that I can understand being top, because it's a film you either get or you don't, and Charlie just gets it.
Yeah, I think I see it as kind of different as a lot of people, because of the way I see it as like all of Star Trek and most kind of films, very much a product of its own time. Yes. And the fact is that it's a very 70s approach to Star Trek, not just when you talk about 70s, you think about flares and stuff like that, and clothes and things like that, and haircuts, but in kind of like the way that the film is very much full of conflict. And I think that's why it rubs a lot of people the wrong way, because the people who are in conflict are our main characters. Now, when people talk about the difference between Star Trek, between the motion picture and The Wrath of Khan, really it's that the crew in The Wrath of Khan, have that camaraderie much like they did in the original series. But again, this is set, what is it, 13 years, well, I don't know if it's set 13 years, but it's around 10 something years after.
I think it's something like 12 years after the motion picture, The Wrath of Khan is.
Yeah, so between the original series and the motion picture is however long, I don't know, however long it takes them to refit the Enterprise, I guess. But on that, you have a lot of people that have gone their separate ways. You have Kirk that's gone to an admiral's job, to a desk job. And this is someone who was clearly very protective of his ship, of the Enterprise, and very much someone who was the captain and who was very much enjoyed, not only enjoying, but very kind of, as Spock puts it in Wrath of Khan, it was his destiny to be the captain. And so then you have Spock, who's left Starfleet and gone off to do his culinara. Bones has left Starfleet and gone off to do whatever. So you've got people kind of, all these 3 different people who are what makes up what people loved about Star Trek. These 3 characters that were all brought together, and we are asked as an audience, as Star Trek fans as well, to look at them and consider who they are as people and what their agendas are. And for that to go from the very kind of camaraderie, the very inseparable three and what they were like on the original series, to go from that to people that are no longer trusting each other, not trusting each other's motives, that for me is not only interesting, but so much more realistic. Instead of them necessarily just coming back and everything kind of being hunky-dory and normal as well. You've got Kirk and his need for the ship, which is just generally a metaphor for being in command. I mean, certainly the physical ship is very much a big part of that, but it's about him being in command and him realising that he was wrong to take that job.
I think my only problem with the motion picture, Charlie, is that if you spend an entire film going, what we're about to see something amazing, it needs to be amazing when you get there. The motion picture does a better job of it than Star Trek V, in that both films go, wait till we get here, it's going to be amazing. Mm. At least Star Trek, even the motion picture with 1979 effects, gives you a sense of scale with V'Ger. I like this film now, and I've never liked it before. But I mean, I'm looking at our rankings here, and Becca and I have identical top sixes, which is hilarious when you look at our Bond rankings, which is very different. We didn't agree with a damn thing there, and now we've got identical top halves.
So
me, Becca, and Chris have identical tops twos, and that doesn't make your choices any less valid at all.
Well, yeah,
but I think it's very I think you have to do a bit more thinking about and talking about why the motion picture would top it to convince people.
Yeah.
Whereas The Wrath of Khan and Undiscovered Country are very, very easy films to sell. And I don't mean commercially, I just mean as a concept of why you would rank them so high. The motion picture it's the most oddly paced film. I mean, it really is. You've got a load of getting the team back together, which is really odd. But having said that, the things that people hate about that film, I adore. I mean, the biggest knock is Kirk going to the ship, and it takes 6 minutes, and it's da 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 da, and it's really slow. I think that is absolutely magnificent, and it achieves a degree of majesty that the series never approaches afterwards.
Yeah. And
I like the motion picture. I can't love it like you like it, but there are bits in it that I just go, yeah, you must appreciate this. It doesn't belong in the bottom 2 or 3, where I always thought it kind of belonged in the bottom 4, let's say. It doesn't. It just objectively doesn't. What you like is what you like, and that's fair enough. But the motion picture has absolutely sublime moments that nothing down there has.
McCoy's disco gear for one.
Well, that's sublime, yeah. I mean, it's funny because I look at my rankings and I've got the motion picture right next to Beyond, and they're mirror opposites because the motion picture, for all its limitations, has such a sweeping scale. Whereas Beyond is almost like a TV episode with a massive budget, just trying to keep the series going. They are opposite ends of the scale in terms of ambition. Beyond is like, let's just try and keep this damn thing going. Whereas the motion picture is like, let's try and transcend the genre.
Yeah. I think, as well, maybe something that kind of sets it apart a bit is, for me, it's the only Star Trek film, and it's probably different to the series as well, that doesn't feel like it's militarized.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I like what Nicholas Meyer did to the series.
Certainly.
But once you add the naval overtones to it, you immediately make it pseudo-military.
Yeah, and it feels genuinely like it's about... exploration, yeah. It is about... it's the same thing as every other one. There's a distress call. There's stuff going on. The Enterprise is the only ship.
Yeah, the only ship in range. Yeah.
The only ship ever. But it's the way... the way it is about exploring that ship and about how the ways of approaching the problems in it are interpreted by those different people, Decker, Kirk, Spock, and what their intentions are behind it. Spock especially, and with how the kind of philosophical, kind of pseudo-religious aspects as well, with the whole Kolinar thing as well. And certainly there's a lovely parallel, which I don't think gets mentioned nearly enough, with V'Ger and Spock. About the kind of...
It's about boiling... if you think about what Kolinar is, it's about boiling somebody down to their essence.
Yeah.
And getting rid of, like, the insignificant. Emotions to a Klingon are insignificant and pointless and not with any merit and point. V'Ger is pure essence of consciousness. It's all it is. So what Spock is trying to achieve, V'Ger automatically is.
Yeah, so it's about those two journeys being reversed and then coming parallel and then meeting in the middle, and V'Ger making his meld with Ilir and Decker, and then Spock having very much more kind of experienced a human side of him to the point where he cries.
Which is a lovely scene. I mean,
yeah.
I don't think Spock in the films plays a better scene until we get to Star Trek 6 and he's angry with King Patrol.
Yeah. So, without getting too pretentious or what have you, the kind of the profundity of that kind of idea is the kind of thing that makes me love this film. Absolutely.
Okay, well that leaves three of us putting the Wrath of Khan at top, and when we came to like review them, Charlie, you actually said it's objectively the best film in the series. So tell us before we get onto it. We've all put it top. What do you like about the Wrath of Khan?
I love that it's got those characters being those characters, and again, I'm not sure because I'm not sure that would have happened without the motion picture being the way it is, because of the way, not only as the reaction to the film in real life, the kind of the reception from many people, and also the kind of the way those characters are brought together at the end. It kind of, for me, it's the beginning of that series that people call a trilogy.
Yes,
I think the motion picture is an essential part of that. But besides that, it's a really, really great fun film. It does brilliantly in terms of the way Star Trek does with kind of allegory and the kind of weapons of mass destruction and people using something that creates things to destroy things. The Khan and Kirk dynamic is brilliant, and the way he brought it back even more naval than the original series is just brilliant. And certainly the way it does have that personal feel, and the way Khan is out for personal vengeance is something that just about every action film now tries to do, and almost every Star Trek film has done since. That turned Star Trek on its head. When you look
back
at the
with a vengeance.
Yeah, when you look at the original series, I mean, Space Seed was one out of however many original series episodes, and the way all those original series episodes were and how they ended, and what the dynamics were, to have that shows the impact of Wrath of Khan, is to show just how that has gone in terms of having that personal antagonist, and to have it much more to a kind of straightforward action. And it's something that I mean, it doesn't reflect badly on the Wrath of Khan at all. because it's a masterpiece. How can? But it's just whether it's unconscious or not. Certainly not unconscious with when you have films like Nemesis and things like that, and even First Contact, where you have the race that are one mind and one consciousness boiled down into one person, just so they can have a face-off. And also the emotion of the film. It's the way it's emotional, not just in terms of Kirk's journey, but obviously Spock as well. And the way it does that, and then we all know what happens at the end and how that's presented. And it's just and tonally, the way it flips from humour. Because that's one thing about the motion picture is it doesn't have a lot of humour, and some of it, when it does, is a bit awkward. But the Wrath of Khan perfected that balance of the kind of more cerebral aspects of Star Trek, the more thoughtful aspects, and the humour.
I look at something like the 2009 film.
Yeah.
Forget how badly written it is for a minute, because that's a given. But I really like it. Now, but the film feels like product. It feels like people have sat in a room and said, right, this is an important IP. How do we bring it back? And they've sat around and thrashed out this idea of like, what beats do we need to hit? I'm sure that's true of The Wrath of Khan as well, in that the motion picture, quote unquote, failed. It didn't. It grossed a lot higher than this film. But even so, it was perceived as not the right return for the money spent on it. So I'm sure they did sit in a room and think, what do we need to do? But there is something about Nicholas Meyer's involvement in this that makes it feel so organic. It makes it feel like he's taken the crew and naturally captured where they would be at this stage of their life. He's captured where they would, what their concerns would be. So you look at someone like Kirk, it's a little bit like Picard. You know, he's chosen the career over the family. But in Kirk's case, as opposed to Picard, there's actually a family there that he could have had. You've got Spock talking about, is it about him? Is it about the many? Is it about the mission? You've got this whole thing about aging. You've got this whole thing about the passage of time. You've got this whole thing about free will. There are so many things in this film that feel like they've happened on it by accident. They can't have done. They must have sat in a room and thought about it and come up with these ideas. But it feels like the most natural, organic drop in to where these characters might be at this stage of their lives. They've never captured that since. You look at the motion picture and they're trying to wait 2001. Not entirely unsuccessfully, but it's a bit of a cerebral exercise. 3 and 4 are kind of sequels to this. 5 is Shatner's ego. You know, you look at it as you go through the series, and there is nothing that, for all its intellect, is so unconsciously, joyously just there. It just came out. It just came out of where they are. And I think that makes this a very, very special film. And I like the fact that he doesn't pander either. If this was an Orson Kurtzman script, we would have had to have a big explanation of when he knocked up Carol Marcus, you know, and how and when and how it happened and how they split up and whatever. The audience is trusted to go, look, Kirk's been around a bit and this happened and he got on with his life. You know?
Yeah, we don't need everything explained to us, do we? And I kind of like it in films where
the other thing is,
it's just left.
The other thing is, my final point on it, and then I'll let you two talk about it. My final point on it is that William Shatner is a classically trained actor, and he runs the gamut from like absolutely sublime to almost unbearable. He's
talking about his music career here.
But the thing is, I did say sublime in there, William Shatner is capable of work that almost no other actors are, but he's
Yes.
also capable of like rubbish
Unique-
that no
unique
other
talent, isn't
actors
he?
are. He's one of the most bizarre enigmas I've ever known in the entertainment business. In that, I can pick out so many scenes that are just like, are you fucking kidding? You try and defend Star Trek to somebody because you love it, and you say, well, it's actually quite cerebral and all the rest of it. And all they got to do is go onto YouTube and call up some William Shatner sketch and go, really? You know, like, really? You think this is good? But I look at his performance in this film. He's all right in a couple of the others. But genuinely, William Shatner, I don't know what it is they captured out of this guy who can be really hammy, but he so encompasses where he is in life, and he plays the emotion without having to play the emotion. Any actor worth their salt can turn on tears and stuff like that, and turn on rage. But I am sold that Kirk is tired and then almost reborn in the story. I think it's wonderful.
It's just a really well crafted film. Generally speaking, which is why it's a fan favourite, because I mean, apart from having like a clear villain, which I know Star Trek films don't have to have a villain, but I think it helps when it makes your film popular. And this one has
It helps, providing you haven't gone, who should be our villain?
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like they've started with. They've almost gone, let's make a follow-up to this film, and he slotted into the role as the villain, which is very different.
I can't remember if did we talk about this, but did they nearly recast Khan, or was it always the case of getting the original actor?
I think it was always him.
I don't remember talking about recast. No.
No, I mean, I don't know what his star power was. I mean, but you can kind of like, I think if it was made today, they would probably consider recasting him. Because I don't know.
I mean, whether they do it's a different matter. I mean, we're talking like filmmakers are complete imbeciles now, and they're not. There's still plenty of like good content made. It's quite possible that a film now would remake something from, let's say, the 80s and cast the same person.
Yeah.
It is possible. But I think you're right in saying they would consider it, definitely. It would be a talking point.
I'm glad they didn't, because he's great in it. I mean, I think he's just one of the guys who just nails that role. He just nails the role of Khan, and I like how he doesn't sort of play him as an archetype evil villain. There's a purpose to how he is. There's a purpose to how he feels. There's a purpose to his actions. I mean, his very own downfall is his quest for vengeance, and how he's just obsessed with it.
I mean, I can't fully say that like I'm on board with his every stance in this film, but at the same time, you meet someone on a ship. The captain allows her to join you in your punishment. He puts you on a planet that is going to be tough but survivable. 6 months later, everything goes wrong, and she's not up to it and dies, and he never even stops back to see how it's going. I can at least understand why Khan would be pissed off, and that is something that future villains never have. I mean, you look at somebody like Shinzon, because that is the most obvious copy of this film, and it's all to do with like, what am I when you're around? And it's like, well, you're worried about yourself relative to Picard, but you didn't even really know Picard existed until fairly recently. You look at something like The Wrath of Khan. He's had 15 years and he's lost the love of his life and lived in extreme tough conditions. He'd be pissed off.
Yeah. Because
he's just hungry for vengeance, isn't he, pretty much?
Especially when you put it, after watching Space Seed, he kind of like respects Kirk as he's like, he kind of like, there's like a mutual respect between the two. So for someone like Khan, for that to happen would diminish that completely. It would times his anger by 10, if it didn't have that. So yeah, I just think it's just really mature, really well executed, really watchable. It's a reason why it's the best Star Trek film. Why it's a favourite amongst fans, because in the 13 films that are there, it's quite easily the best film that's on there. It's a crowd pleaser. I don't know there's more to say about it.
And Charlie has
They have fabulous hair.
Yeah.
The motion picture is his favourite.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
always said the Wrath of Khan is the best.
Well, it's like me picking Casino Royale, isn't it? With
Yeah, but I don't think you're wrong there. I think they're almost indistinguishable from each other. I mean, Casino Royale and On Her Majesty's Secret Service are both great films. They just have very different pluses to them. In that, I think, for example, On Her Majesty's has a better score and it has better visuals because of Pitt's Gloria and stuff. But you can't possibly argue with Casino Royale. It's a wonderful film. I think here, I think The Wrath of Khan gets far more right than the motion picture. But the motion picture is like this singular thing. It sits outside the rest of the series. Had Charlie sat here tonight and said The Search for Spock was top of his list, whilst I would still respect that because he's totally entitled to his opinion, I'd have more to argue with. Because I think it fits more into like the general piece.
No.
The motion picture is something all of its own.
Yeah, and to be honest, I completely get why Charlie would put motion picture. I wouldn't actually argue against it ever, because I generally do respect that as a Star Trek film. But even with that being said, even if Wrath of Khan wasn't favoured as well as it was, as well as it is, it's the type of film that plays into my wheelhouse anyway. So it's always going to be a favourite of mine to put in there, regardless. So Becca, do you want to say any more on Wrath of Khan?
I don't think I can add anything more to it to what's already been said. Really.
Except you love his chest.
Except yes, he does have a fabulous chest and fabulous hair. That's obviously
You
the
just
word
write the
like.
greying old man.
No, I'm not really that shallow. Well, no, it's like as you're saying.
I am.
It's like
He's no Roger, is he, Becca?
well,
He's not happily married in the
it's
same
like
way.
it's like when you think of Bond, you can't. I mean, obviously Roger's a personal favourite for a lot of people and of a certain generation as well. But obviously for many, Connery is quintessential Bond. And well, there's been no other apart from obviously Chris Pine, but obviously Shatner is, as you say, he's just very sort of unique, sort of of his time, and like he is, that's undeniable, and the same with Khan as well. Cumberbatch had a good go, but sadly he ain't Khan.
Cumberbatch, I feel really sorry for him. I mean, I don't feel that sorry for him because he's got an absurdly successful career. But like, how the fuck do you follow that character with the same name when you're a white Englishman? It's just you haven't even remotely got. You've just been given. I don't want to rag on it again because I've done it twice, but it's like you can't. You're in a no-win situation. You really
I think
are.
what they've done is that they tried to pick somebody with very similar iconicity. I don't know what the word would be. He's very much sort of a cultural icon. It was something like Ricardo Montalban, like Fantasy Island, and of course, obviously, Space Seed, Star Trek. And tried to pick somebody else who sort of captures the moment of what's going on in popular culture right at this second.
I don't think they're even remotely similar.
This is it. I was going to say they're not on.
You look at.
I've gone to agree with you. They're
massive budget film.
They're not on the same level.
I almost feel like they would have cast whoever was big and available at that time.
Exactly.
And it happened to be Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
But if you'd gone back, I don't know, 10 years ago, might
have Colin Farrell or somebody like that, maybe.
Colin Farrell, Sam Rockwell, something like that.
Yeah,
10 years back before that, might it have been Tom Cruise? It's almost.
That would have been interesting.
It's got nothing to do with Khan, Nooney, and Singh. It's got to do with. We're going to call whoever it is Khan. Who can we cast?
Yeah, exactly. They've kind of done it backwards, haven't they? Really.
Yeah.
It's just a bad idea in general, isn't it? Really, just
It's just what's the point?
Well, yeah, I'm not kind of bashing that film, but as I was just to say, you can't really I mean, they're both very much of their time, of their eras, and yeah, they're kind of for that point. They're not on the same
But the
level.
Wrath of
Both
Khan
fantastic,
feels
but
less
definitely
like
that's it.
product than any of the reboot films.
It's,
Now,
it's
sure,
got, it's
they're all
got much,
product. They're all there to try to make money, but I feel the sort of shadow of like committee conversations when it comes to the reboots in a way I didn't with many of the original crew films. And I think part of that is the original crew films didn't have such lofty ambitions. They just wanted to make enough money to keep going. Whereas you go and make something like Into Darkness and they're not going to, but they want to make like $1 billion. So it's focus group to death in a way the Wrath of Khan wasn't.
Which doesn't really make sense, because if you're expecting like to go off a film that only made X amount of money, and you want to do like $1 billion film, it's a bit of a stretch, then, isn't it? Because you're thinking like you're appealing to the fans, you want to appeal to more. Essentially, you want to appeal to people who aren't in the fan base, but yet you want to appeal to the fans by doing Khan again. It just doesn't make sense, you know. It's like, why don't you just do something new or create a new character which gives the fans someone new, and you can explain to the newcomers without kind of repeating old glories, you know. It just, I don't know.
So that's it, folks. We've all ranked them.
That's it. Surprise, surprise, Wrath of Khan is number one for most of us. So
Yeah. And Charlie, really, apart from The Undiscovered Country, as much as I don't love the motion picture, I think he's picked the only one outside of those two films that like I can understand. Because it's a film you either get or you don't.
Yeah.
And I don't fully, but I do enough to get why he does. I think there's a lot wrong with it, but there is something majestic about the original motion picture that they never captured again. The overture and the music and the sense of scale and the 70mm and all the rest of it. Anyway, Becca, we got a couple of questions, haven't we?
Yes, we have a couple of questions from a couple of listeners. So Carl Wonders says on Facebook, what does it take to be a good Star Trek film, and how does that differ, if at all, from being a good film in general? I think that's quite an interesting question, and I think you can apply it to any like a Bond film or Indiana Jones or any film that's of a canon or of a series. So what do we think to that one? First of all,
For me, I actually think that the worst thing you could do is try to go for a formula. What does it take to make a good Star Trek film? Well, they've been trying to do that since 1982, and all they've done is copy that 1982 film. All you got to do is stick it on the Enterprise and try and like capture the characters one way or another.
you can also follow the formula and be a dodgy, well not dodgy, but be a quite poor film. You know,
it depends how vague the formula is as well. I mean, with Bond, you just got like, oh, you got to have a Q scene, or it's got to be a thing where he does this and that. It's not rather than
you
that.
tick all the
Trek
boxes.
doesn't
It doesn't
have
necessarily
that.
mean you've got a
Yeah.
quality
It isn't
product at the end of it.
Well, it isn't like every Star Trek film has a scene with the Doctor 40 minutes in, for example. It's not structured strictly. I mean, I do take the point, because when I look at something like First Contact, it doesn't feel like a Star Trek film to me. So there must be something within it that is Star Trek. But I think the worst thing you can do is go in and say what makes a good Star Trek film, because what makes a good Star Trek film leads them to say what has been a good Star Trek film, which leads them inexorably to the fucking Wrath of Khan and an attempt to remake it. And we've had it to death.
Yeah, that's what they're all trying to do, haven't they, since that time?
They've all gone, well, it needs a really strong villain. And it's like, well, yes, it might need a strong
Right one
villain.
then.
I think you just need to just simplify what makes a good Star Trek film, and for me it's staying true to the heart and soul of what Star Trek actually is, and the characters who you are portraying. That is key. You can sort of play with like, okay, you need to have a good villain and a good plot. That's probably be the third one, a good actual story to tell. But that's basically it. I think if you do that, you have a good Star Trek film. And you don't necessarily need a good villain. Well, you know, it helps. but you don't necessarily need that depending on what the story is. You know, I mean, Voyage Home proves that. So, yeah,
You've got those 3 core ingredients there, haven't you? As long as you kind of have those at your absolute base.
I think the answer's pretty simple. It's just like stay true to what Trek is and the characters. You know, portray the characters as truly as they would, and then beyond that, it's down. If everything else is down to story, direction, and how good the performances are. So, yeah, but those 2 are key. I would say.
No, I pretty much agree with that actually, because you asked, you know, what does it take to make a great Trek film as compared to like a standalone like genre film, for example. But no, not from a filmmaking background, but coming from like kind of like film studies approach, I would be inclined to agree with Chris. Really, you do have to have like I'm not, you know, obviously coming from like being a Bond fan, there are those sort of, you know, Bond films where all the boxes are ticked. You know, you've got your sexy girls, exotic locations, blah blah blah. Does not always a good Bond film make.
And you're not bothered if like 1 or 2 aren't there.
No, it's like we've got Casino Royale, for example, who hardly ticks any of those boxes.
They're just like sort of things you like, in it. It's like ingredients, isn't it? Really.
Well, that's it exactly. But I think with in terms of as long as you stay, you've got a good story. You stay true to the spirit of the original and to the spirit of the characters as well, and you try to do right by that. Then in theory, you should have a decent Star Trek film.
Yeah.
But I think that could be said for any film that's like of a series, like with like Crystal Skull, for example. It fell down on many of those, and perhaps that's why it, you know, was received the way it was received.
Yeah, they took Indiana Jones trying to make a sci-fi film out of it. It's just like,
well, exactly. It's like no, it doesn't. You know, it doesn't really work. And I don't know. It might happen to some of the later films that we're going to be covering. But we'll see as we go along. But yeah, no, I would agree with you, Chris. Definitely. We've got to have those sort of 3 core ingredients, as it were. Stay true to that, and then hopefully, if you have a good story as well on top, and then it will just flourish from there. Really.
It's such an intangible thing that it's difficult to kind of, because you say be true to the characters, that kind of thing. It depends where that frame of reference is coming from. Are you referring to the original series?
It'll be whatever Star Trek film you're making. You know, if it's a new set of characters, then obviously that goes out the window. But
fair enough.
Yeah,
because with a new crew or something.
But I would guess in that case, then you would just sort of stay true to what Star Trek actually is. But
the spirit of the original.
Yeah, but I was assuming that it would like either be original series or next gen. You know, assuming you have to like stay true to those characters. But other than that,
they've almost tried to copy a formula that wasn't there, really. There is no stereotypical Star Trek. Star Trek belongs on TV. I think that's actually going to be our second question in a minute. But I think that you're trying to copy something without understanding what made it work. The Wrath of Khan did not work because there was some villain in it who was really good. The Wrath of Khan worked for loads of reasons. Firstly, one of the best William Shatner performances ever, one of the best Leonard Nimoy performances ever, this meditation on aging, the first time we'd seen characters in an historic show or an historic IP move on and age and change. All of those things. And actually Khan was the sort of icing on the cake. He wasn't the story. And they've tried to copy the bit that really doesn't matter. You know, Khan's great, Ricardo Montalban's great, the film's great. But if you copy Khan, you've missed the point.
Yeah, they're always trying to recapture that magic kind of made by Khan, really. They spent their energy trying to do that rather than make anything new.
But if you're trying to find what makes the Wrath of Khan great, it isn't really Khan.
No.
It is Khan from sort of Kirk's perspective and how they interact and all the rest of it. But you can't just dump that character into another film or something like it
and therefore make it
and
great.
have the same effect.
No, it's some of its parts, really, isn't it?
It's not what made that film great. What made that film great is a very vain actor. It was almost very meta, like I said at the time. You took a very vain actor and got him to drop his vanity. And that was much more powerful than taking an actor that never had any vanity and doing it.
Sure.
There's something about getting somebody like a Shatner to drop their vanity that's more powerful than getting somebody that never had any in the first place.
So I'll lead into our second question. Obviously, we've got Star Trek 14 coming soon and a new Trek TV series on the way. So Richard Jenkinson says, will Star Trek be best now to remain as a TV series only? The characters can be explored more and the stories can be more cerebral and perhaps have more of a Gene Roddenberry feel to them. So what do you reckon? Is Trek on the big screen, should that be the kind of left as it is now?
I'll go first. I was with you, Richard, until you got to the Roddenberry bit. Because I'm not. I don't. It's a bit like when I talk about somebody like Maurice Binder for Bond, that like they've had such a key contribution, and I sound like I'm slagging them off. The fact is, Roddenberry, this series wouldn't exist without them. But some of the best Trek took place after his death and actually violated some of his rules. Providing you have a future that is optimistic and they work through their problems, there's no reason you can't have conflict. I don't want a Roddenberry Star Trek now, because a Roddenberry Star Trek is the first couple of series of The Next Generation. And
where no one has conflict ever.
It's fucking rubbish. It's not very good. It was
doesn't make
better.
a good drama.
I hate to say this, but it was better after he passed away. But it was always informed by his vision, if you like. Are you asking me asking us whether Star Trek is better on TV and more cerebral and all the rest of it? Yes and yes. Star Trek should be on TV. I prefer the TV version of it. I do prefer the following the crew week after week. I'm sick of waiting 3 or 4 years just to get some perfunctory adventure that is generally them racing around and fucking screaming at each other anyway. Yes, I think so. I can defend the film series. I can watch the film series. I think they almost belong in different universes. As far as I'm concerned, I think the film should continue with the alternate timeline. Just exist in different universes now, because you are fundamentally servicing different audiences. Most hardcore fans will watch both, but there's certainly a film audience you want to reach out to that aren't really that bothered about Star Trek when it comes to TV or anything, and that's fine. The reason I bristle at the word Roddenberry is not only the things I've just said, but I think there's a superiority that isn't matched by the material when it comes to Star Trek fans. We talk like it's this amazing cerebral thing. Star Trek is full of really dumb shit. It really is. And I'm not saying it's predominantly that, but it's got plenty of it. And I'm sick of Star Trek fans looking down their nose at not only the reboots, but things like Star Wars. It's like, don't be fucking ridiculous. You're serving different audiences. But for my part, I think it's got a place on the big screen and the more small screen. But I think they serve different masters. I think they belong in different universes. And if I could have one or the other, give me TV. I don't give a shit about Star Trek on the big screen. Just as I don't give a shit about Star Wars on the small screen. I only want to watch Star Wars films, and I only really want to watch Star Trek TV.
I'm looking forward to the new Trek series if and when it ever appears. It started off on the small screen, and it's coming home, I guess, if that makes sense. It's kind of more from like episodic drama that I think kind of really drives the drama more so. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the new TV series. I think not that the films have run out of steam, but I just think with the reboot series, there's kind of more. I don't know what the word is. There's more of an appetite for a TV series now. So it's kind of like back in the popular domain again.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always room for Star Trek films, but I think TV is its home at the end of the day. So if you had to choose between one or two, it would be TV, definitely.
I think it kind of goes back to the last question as well, where you think about what defines Star Trek, and it's certainly a very subjective question, and what defines Star Trek to one person doesn't to another, which is why you have the reaction to the reboot films, why you have reactions to shows like Deep Space Nine, which was as far away from Roddenberry as possible. It was able to diversify that universe even more and make it feel, I suppose, a greater sense of fighting that battle for the optimism and for the kind of the humanity that the series has, that Star Trek as a concept has always tried to push, not successful a lot of the time, but has tried to push about the strength of humanity and diversity and building towards that future where obviously whether or not you believe in there can be a utopia or what you believe that consists of, it's to your own interpretation, but it's kind of going from that and looking again at your audience and looking at where your audiences are on the big screen and the small screen. Star Trek Beyond kind of has started to build on it in a way the previous two films didn't, and also has taken a bit more of a approach to another thing about Star Trek, which is the fact that it is science fiction. There's obviously science fiction can take many forms, but certainly sometimes with the formula that there was from Wrath of Khan and then the JJ films, the first couple of JJ films, was a tendency for it to kind of go towards Star Wars type thing a bit more. And that's not looking at the nose of it, looking down the nose at Star Wars, because obviously I love Star Wars a tiny bit more than I do Star Trek. But they're two different things. And the way that Star Wars uses science fiction and the kind of the trappings around that is very different to Star Trek and how it approaches science fiction. They're two completely different things. And I think the one way where there can be a feature for Star Trek on the big screen is for it to look at something like Arrival or some things like this, which are big science fiction films that are making money and that are very, very popular critically and commercially, and looking that there doesn't have to be that formula, but to look at science fiction and the going towards the kind of harder sci-fi, as they call it, and more about the generation of ideas, allegory, and imagination, instead of just making it cowboys in space.
So, in summary, TV.
TV good.
So, it's also a danger that it can be oversaturated as well, because you had Deep Space Nine, and then you have Voyager, and then you had Enterprise.
Oh, it went too far in the 90s. It killed itself. I was only amazed it lasted like 18 years or whatever it was.
Yeah, so I think
that's a long time of having two series.
Yeah, but I think with TV as it is, where you have people like HBO and things like that, where the landscape has changed so much.
Yeah, and it's 13 episodes, and not only that, it's 13 episodes, which means it's less all-encompassing. Also, people watch more stuff now, so it isn't one of the 4 or 5 things people watch. And not only that, at any given time, that linked to that, there are more episodes somebody's watching of something. I don't think it's as pressing a concern,
no.
But they would still be unwise to run several Star Trek series at the same time in perpetuity.
Absolutely. And also, don't be afraid to have story arcs.
I don't think they will be now.
But, yeah.
Okay, well, Charlie, I think we've all been itching to say piss off and come back for Star Wars.
Well, I'm eager now that Chris has made his little revelation about Empire.
Yeah, very exciting. Find out all about that.
About what, sorry?
Empire.
Do remember he said at the beginning that
That it's a
didn't like it
terrible,
so
it's a
much.
terrible
No.
film, and geeks everywhere are wrong. No, I'm kidding. That's not,
yes, no,
I'm joking.
But yeah, no, I've had a very happy time doing this. Thank you for having me. And
Oh, it's been great, Charlie. We go back to a 3, which is easier logistically, although Charlie hasn't been a problem at all. But getting 4 people together is a little bit harder than 3. But you'll be back in 2 series time. We've got Superman next, and then we've got Rocky, and then you'll be back to cover the entire Star Wars series with us. And we haven't planned it out yet, so we don't know what we're doing in terms of.
I thought we were doing Batman
music
after
and
Rocky.
I thought you were doing
commentary.
Batman.
Sorry?
I thought you were doing Batman after Superman.
Oh, hang on.
Yeah, it was Superman, Rocky.
I have actually fucked that up.
Because I was going to come back for a music episode.
Oh, I
for-
sounded
Yeah, you
so
were.
I sounded so fucking wise then, and I ballsed it up. All right, okay, let's try that again. You'll be back after. We've got Superman, Rocky, and then yes, we do have Batman. At the end of the Batman, the last Batman episode is going to be a superhero music episode. We haven't planned it out yet. We'll be planning it with Charlie sort of behind the scenes until we get there. It could be the longest episode we ever do. It might be multiple parts. We've got no idea how long this episode might run. But when you think you could talk about just the John Williams Superman music for a whole episode, and we're going to go a lot wider than that. But he's going to do that, and then we go straight into Star Wars, which we haven't planned out yet. But obviously it's going to be all the Star Wars films, i.e. episodes 1 to 7 plus Rogue One, and yeah, we'll do 8 when we get there. But we haven't decided what we're doing in terms of commentaries, music, or anything else around that yet. But yeah, you'll be joining us for that.
Yes.
So, where are we in social media, folks?
At the Pasty Kid 1976 on Twitter for me.
I'm on Cinematronics, at Cinematronics, where you can also find my website, where you can find this podcast, which I rarely update, but at cinematronics.co.uk.
You can find me at MovieDrone on Twitter, and our website is moviedrone.thedigitalfix.com.
And you can follow us on Twitter at Expected to Talk. Also on Facebook, Expected to Talk. You can also drop us an email if you'd like to. So expectedtotalk@gmail.com. Don't forget to get over there on the old iTunes and just type in "Do You Expect to Talk" into the search box and give us a glowing 5-star review. Helps us get higher in them old rankings and attract more people. And we are also on Stitcher as well. Come and join in the fun.
Indeed.
Well, it doesn't sound very fun, does it?
No.
It's very late and very tired. No, but yeah, no, come and join in the fun.
He uses Stitcher anyway, I don't know.
And we're also on YouTube as well, so visit YouTube and type in Expect to Talk into the search box and have a check some of our exciting podcasts of all the series that we covered so far.
Yeah, you can re-listen to us making rude comments.
And how much we love Roger.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And how much we hate Die Another Day.
I think Diamonds is the one we hate with passion, isn't it?
Yeah, Diamonds is probably our funniest. If you want to go back and
that's the
listen
one
to some of our old
for
podcasts, then Diamonds is probably the best
I'm not
place to
great
start.
one for talking up our own stuff, but Diamonds is a really funny, enjoyable episode.
Yeah, this is a rare moment of us blowing our own trumpet, but it's quite amusing.
So we come back next with a little sort of buffer between us and Superman. We've got a one-off episode we're going to put out.
Ooh, should we leave that as a surprise for...
We can give a general area, which means Becca.
Do You Expect to Talk will return with a mystery Bond commentary.
Dun, dun, dun.